So one of the classic flint tools that you find running all the way from the Paleolithic right through into the Iron Age even is a scraper. So scrapers are, as the name suggests, a piece of flint that the edge has been modified to be useful for scraping. And that can be all sorts of things. So it can be used to shape something like antler or bone if you're trying to modify the shape, or it can be useful for things like hide working, where you're scraping the inside of a hide to remove the extraneous fat to prepare it for leather work. So a scraper is quite a simple tool in one sense, but it is extremely functional, and so we find them all over the place. So this is the sort of piece of flint that you could use beforehand. So this has come off a larger core. So here we can see the cortex on the outside and some of the scars from the previous knapping. So this is what we call the ventral side and the dorsal side, the ventral being the belly side, the interior piece. So the type of knapping that we need to do is a bit softer, a bit gentler, a bit more precise, and the idea is to picture the tool that you want beforehand. So if I compared it to the previous scraper, if you line them up over the top perhaps, and what's quite useful is that they've got this little curve in them, which will be very useful actually when you come to the action of scraping. So we'll try and preserve that curl as much as possible, remove some of this extraneous pieces, and then shape this. As you can see, these have got these sort of nibbles on the edges, which is the blunting action. So instead of it being quite sharp, because flint is naturally sharp, this is now blunted, but it's blunted with an edge in the same way that, say, a teaspoon or a tablespoon is blunt. So the amount of force that you need to put in is nowhere near as much as for knapping a much bigger nodule. This is much more gentle work, just carefully removing the pieces of flint that you don't want. And it's quite satisfying because you can see the shape appearing almost immediately, whereas with a bigger piece you need to be thinking more steps ahead. Here you can see quite quickly the results. So we'll try and keep that curve in as best we can. So now we've got rid of all of the outside sort of chalky layer. So if this is going to be the main scraper edge here, we'll try and shape this to be the principal piece, the working edge. When you strike with a stone like this, there's a few different ways of doing it. You can come down directly and try and sort of go through it, or for a much more gentle piece of work you can almost go across in a glancing blow, and that will produce very, very small, delicate little removals. So there you have something like the scraper edge, and that you can then use this edge here for whatever it is that you wanted to do.